Hi everyone. Welcome to our 31st Quick Query Critique. I'm Marla Miller, and I was going to send this on the 30th, but when I saw that this was our 31st, I couldn't believe it. I decided to hold it off until the 31st, just in case there's anything to this numerology stuff. I want to up my chances for any success in 2011. As silly as that might sound, but I bet some of you understand that. Okay, let's just get right into this query letter. I think it's a very interesting one. Dear Blank, consider this scenario. June 2011, the United States Supreme Court session draws to a close. The then 75-year-old Associate Justice Anton Scalia abruptly announces his retirement in the halls of Congress, in the White House, in university law schools, in barrooms, and at church socials, on nation's radio and television talk shows from Fox to MSNBC. All hell breaks loose. The battle to replace the court's most conservative justice, maybe the most conservative justice in the entire history of the court, by the nation's liberal president, maybe the most liberal president in the nation's entire history, erupts. Imagine, if you can, the ongoing and never-ending debate as the nomination and confirmation process continues perhaps even into the presidential election of 2012. Wouldn't you love to have a book on the history of the Supreme Court nominations, a book such as Second Thoughts, Presidential Regrets with their Supreme Court nominations ready to hit the marketplace? And presidential regrets there were, in abundance. For instance, Harry S. Truman referred to one of his Supreme Court nominees as, quote, a dumb son of a bitch. He's about the dumbest man I ever ran across, unquote. President Eisenhower said his nomination of a candidate, quote, was the biggest damn fool thing I ever did, unquote. President Theodore Roosevelt said one of his nominees, quote, had less backbone than a banana, end of quote. Second Thoughts, Presidential Regrets with their Supreme Court nominations is a never-before-told story about questions American presidents surely pondered as they look back on some of their Supreme Court nominees. From the time of President Washington's appointment of the first Supreme Court in 1789 down to present day, retrospective questions about the 161 official appointments abound. For instance, why wouldn't a president regret nominating an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court who later spent time in an insane asylum? Who named a justice who was later arrested for murder? What presidential nominee went to debtor's prison? Twice. And which president had to regret nominating a man who, after the Senate confirmed him as a Supreme Court justice, was found to have been a lifetime member of the KKK? And what is a president to think when one of his nominees is accused of having sexual relations right there in his Supreme Court chambers? Second Thoughts, running to 307 pages and about 79,000 words, fully documented, is my fifth book. One of them, he gives the title, was published by a university press, won a coveted award presented by the Writers' League of, he names a state, for the best in nonfiction by a writer in 2005. My most recent, and then he gives the title, is now published by, and he gives the title of that press. The legal issues covered in this book have all been reviewed, verified, and corroborated by a highly respected former defense attorney, one whose courtroom credits include trying the case that ultimately led to Roe v. Wade. He has shepherded me across the legal shoals, and with his legal expertise and my newspaper reporter background, the manuscript will easily stand the test of any peer review. I've been graduated from Temple University and Florida Atlantic University. My writing skills were developed during the 20 years I spent as a newspaper reporter, writer, editor for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and as a writer-editor for a company stable of trade journals. I'm the creator, writer, and co-host of a weekly public radio program on Texas A&M University's station. I've been a guest lecturer at Sam Houston State University and at the University of Houston, and I teach several courses for the City of College Station's adult ed program. Second Thoughts is available for your perusal as a just completed manuscript, or if you so desire, a formal proposal is also ready. As a media-labeled author and historian, I send thanks for your consideration as I wait to hear from you at your earliest convenience. And then he signs his name. What do I think of this? Well, it was interesting because when I read this, it was broken up into 2 pages, in my email, because I ask everyone to cut and paste in the email so I don't have to open files. And anyway, the second part of this, was on the second page. And I have to tell you that by the time I got to the end of the paragraph where he lists all of the mistakes that presidents have made in their Supreme Court nominations, I was intrigued. I'd never heard of anything like this. Now, keep this in mind that I'm a political junkie, so this kind of stuff is right up my alley. So, of course, he would send this to agents who also represent political stuff, because I would think that the content of this 307-page book is going to get some attention. But having said that, and considering that this is a newspaper reporter who has some very nice credentials and is doing, if you notice in his last or his, like, he's got a lot of, this is a long letter. He's got great creds, okay? Not only past creds, but current creds. So his platform building is excellent. He's got a radio show, he teaches, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so the speed bumps. The first speed bump was really on the first paragraph, because he mentions a current Supreme Court justice, and it says, what if he retired? Well, I don't know what that has to do with this story. I really don't. So I think he should consider that. I know that he said consider this scenario, but I just don't know. I think that the first paragraph, even though it's about a Supreme Court justice, is a bit of a red herring. If I were him, I would launch right into what this book is about, because I find it absolutely fascinating. And if in fact this author has collaborated with people in the legal business who know about these things, and if he has done his research, which it sounds to me like he has, because this book is done and the book proposal is done, I would think that there would be an audience for this book. I absolutely would. Okay. Having said that, I sure don't like the title at all. And here's just a little bit of tutorial for all of us. When you have a title like this, Second Thoughts, and then you have a subtitle, Presidential Regrets with Their Supreme Court Nominations, the first thing that you want to ask yourself is, if someone were to just call this Second Thoughts, and you know how agents do, I mean, we want to cut down titles, especially when we're pitching, when we're talking, when we're trying to sell it. What does Second Thoughts tell you? Nothing, right? Okay, so you want that, you want every word in your title to tell the reader something. So I would suggest that instead of Second Thoughts, I would do something like Presidential Mistakes, Regrettable Supreme Court Nominations, perhaps, something like that. If that works for him, it's all yours. But I really would, all kidding aside, I really would encourage this author to rework that title, because he's not getting the most out of it, and he should get the most out of it. That's another speed bump. I just think it's too long. This author has spent a lot of time. I mean, he's got 1-2 paragraphs. His second to the last paragraph and his fourth to the last paragraph, that's just about his credits, which is great. However, consolidate those. And I would not put all of his books in there, or I would only put one in there, and that was the one that got a nice award. I would put that in. You can say that you've published 5 books and, you know, one of the books won this very coveted award. I would do that, and I would get rid of the rest of that. The fact that he has legal issues in the book that he's got covered with counsel is very good. I don't know if counsel is co-authoring with him or if it's going to be a with author. Perhaps he doesn't need that, because he is a journalist of quite a few years, and if he wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer, he's, you know, that's a pretty good credential. So I like it very much. Don't like the title. I think it's too long. And I would pitch this to agents that are very political in what they represent, because I would be very interested to know how many screw-ups our presidents have made. I just think it's that's a fascinating read. I don't know if it's worth 307 pages. I see this book as actually more condensed, so I don't know how he's going to fill up 307 pages with, unless there are so many blunders that they did, but I would be very careful about going into too much depth about all of these blunders. So I kind of see this as a a book that you would pick up and just go through and go, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I mean, that would be really cool. So I would think that the crafting of this book in terms of formatting and readability is also going to be crucial to this author. Anyway, I could go on about it. I like it. I didn't realize that our president screwed up so many times. Did you? Of course you didn't. And wouldn't you want to know more? I know I would. Okay. That's it for this quick query critique number 31 on the 31st of December 2010. I wish you all good health in 2011, because with good health we can do anything, can't we? Until the next time we meet, stay well and keep writing.